Wow. Come on. .430? No charges, no blood tests, not a cover-up. What's going on out in Colorado? Let's bring in our friend joining us tonight from Denver, Colorado, criminal defense attorney Jeffrey Wolf. Jeffrey, great to see you. Let's start here. Is the DA right? If this was anyone else other than a police officer, there would have been a blood test, there would have been charges, and most likely there would have been a conviction?
He's 100% correct, Vinny. Anybody who practices law in the state of Colorado that does criminal defense work, like I do, represents a lot of DUI clients. And to say that somebody found asleep in their car shouldn't be prosecuted, that they don't have enough evidence, that they're not going to ask for a blood draw or a breath draw is complete hogwash. And for the DA to say that this is a couple blocks from a cover-up is his own cover-up.
Well, the body cam footage is all over it. We've seen it. I mean, even one of them saying hey, he's intoxicated. We heard that from one of the officers there. What I'm not following here, though, and we cover cases all over the country. Different states have different laws about how you can get the blood results in, how you can't. Apparently, there was a test here. Why wouldn't prosecutors be able to use those results? It was .430.
Right. That's 100% right. And in Colorado, we have something called the express consent law, where an officer has the right to invoke that if they believe there's probable cause that the person is operating their vehicle under the influence of alcohol, or even to the slightest degree on the DWAI charge, which is our lower charge. And in this case, what the officers didn't do is invoke express consent and tell him, you have to take this test. And so when he took it at the hospital for medical purposes, it was covered by HIPAA. But because they never invoked express consent, the DA can't get to the result. But to say that they need the result to prosecute the case is insane. We have people all the time who don't take the test for whatever reason, and they still prosecute it. I work cases in Arapahoe County against George Bruckler and his deputies, and they prosecute those cases all the time. They've chosen not to prosecute this one.
That's fascinating. Now, Colorado's a state where you guys have legalized marijuana, so I'm sure there are people that drive under the influence of that. Do they prosecute those types of cases without some sort of biological test result from a defendant based upon what they see, what they observe, the behavior?
So the law that our legislature passed on marijuana driving is that they can invoke express consent for that as well, and they can tell the person that they have to take a blood draw, because urine tests, which is what they used to do before it was legal and they weren't as common, aren't very accurate to test for it, and breath doesn't test it at all. So they are going to take blood draws for that, and we have a hogwash rebuttable presumption 5 nanogram limit. It doesn't mean anything. Jurors are constantly confused by it because it is bad science, but we do test for that as well.
All right, getting back to this case, I mean, the video to me is pretty clear and extremely dangerous. I mean, he stopped in the middle of the intersection. They said his foot was on the brake. So if he let go of that brake, it would have gotten extremely dangerous. From your perspective, it wasn't a cup. How could all these people, we're looking at all these people on the scene, and I understand maybe there was something medical, but they smelled alcohol. They knew.
They smelled alcohol. He admitted to drinking alcohol. He's in the car, in the middle of the road, like you said, with his foot on the brake. Let's not forget he also had his duty weapon on his hip and a shotgun within inches of his hands. Okay? That is a charge in and of itself of possession of a weapon when you're intoxicated. That's a charge you can get in Colorado. This situation couldn't be more dangerous. It couldn't be more clear. And it's funny to watch the Aurora Police Department on one side and the Arapahoe County DA's office on the other side point the fingers at each other when in reality they both are participating in this cover-up.
Let me ask you one more question before we go here, Jeffrey. The officers who were involved in this investigation, the fact that they did not charge or ask for the blood draw in this case, could that in any way be used against them in future prosecutions of people who are suspected of driving under the influence?
Well, what they did is they allowed the officer who was in charge of the investigation, who at that time was the interim chief about to take over for the outgoing chief of police, they let him take early retirement. So he's not going to be investigating any cases. But I damn well hope that any cases that he's still named on, that this kind of stuff comes up, because it's dishonesty at its finest, it's bias at its finest, and all of that stuff's admissible.
And at the end of the day, it's extremely dangerous. Jeffrey Wolf, I'm so glad we were able to get you tonight to get to the bottom of what was taking place out there in Aurora. We really appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too.